What's up, YouTube? I'm here to do my prediction video for UFC 239. Let's start the bottom. The first fight is Julia Oliva versus Piana. Can't say her last name. Both these chicks are pretty well-rounded. They're both just okay. I'm just leaning towards Piana just because I've seen her more. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't seen the other chick fight very much, so I don't know too much about her. Piana, I think, is good. I think she lost that UFC fight, but I think that was just because she was super undersized against who she was fighting. But I think this will be closer in terms of size, so I think she's going to win a decision. Next is Islam Naradov versus Chance for encounter. And to me, Islam, I think, is just a way better striker. I think on the ground it'll be close. I think Islam's the stronger wrestler overall. But I definitely think striking, Islam has a huge advantage. I mean, he beat, what's his face? Fuck, I can't remember the Brazilian dude's name, but he was on like a 7-fight win streak in the UFC. Yeah, so Ismail, like I said, I think he's a really solid up-and-comer. He's like 22 with a ton of knockouts. I think he's going to win by knockout in the first round. Next is Edmen Shahbazyan versus Jack Marshman, and this is going to be a striking fight. It'll be back and forth. Edmen's definitely the better wrestler. He could take this to the ground if he wanted to. I don't know. Jack Marshman, I think he could keep it on the feet. This one's kind of tough. I think it's just whoever lands that big shot first. I'm just leaning towards Jack. I'm just leaning towards his experience. It's tough, though. Like, this is a hard one. Edmen's, like I said, younger and the better wrestler, but I'm leaning slightly towards Jack. I think he's the better striker, and I think he lands the big shot first. Mainly just because that fight Edmen had against fucking Darren Stewart, he got clipped so many times. It's like, it makes me wonder if Jack Marshman can land a good shot, if he'll win by knockout. So I'm leaning towards Jack. Next is Alejandro Perez versus Yadong Song, and to me, I'm leaning towards Alejandro Perez. I think both these guys are primarily strikers. I just don't think this fight's going to hit the ground. I think Alejandro's just much better technically in terms of his striking. I think he can add up a lot of points just with his movement. I think Song hits harder, so if he can catch him with a big shot, he might knock him out. But like I said, I think Alejandro's movement is too good, and I think he's just going to edge out all 3 rounds. Next, we got Claudia Gadelha versus Randa Markos. And to me, these chicks are the same. They're both strong starters. They fight really fast and hard early, but they tend to slow down. I just think Claudia Gadelha is better everywhere. I think Randa, she'll have her moments, but I think overall Claudia is just going to outposition her throughout 3 rounds because they're both going to get tired at around the same pace, and I think that Claudia is just going to show her better overall skills throughout the 3 rounds and probably win at least a 29-28 decision. Next is Marlon Vera versus Noel Hernandez, and Hernandez, to me, he's a good boxer, but that's about it. He's also taking this fight in super short notice. I feel like Marlon Vera's one weakness is he is kind of falling in love with his stand-up, and he's not using his jiu-jitsu as much as he should. In some fights where I feel like he could probably beat the guys even easier if he does use his grappling a little bit. I think he's going to be smart in this fight, though. I mean, like I said, I think if this fight hits the ground in any way, shape, and form, Marlon Vera's got a huge advantage. Striking, Noel's probably a little bit better technically-wise, but I think Marlon Vera just has more punching power. So it'll be close on the feet, but I think once Marlon gets smart and just tries to take to the ground, he'll probably win by submission, so I got Marlon by like round 2 sub. Next is Gilbert Melendez versus Arnold Allen, and this is the fight where we're going to see how much Gilbert still has. I'm glad he's taken so much time off because I think he needed it. I think his body was just needed some rest. I still think he's pretty good. He's getting older, but we're going to see. Arnold Allen, he's 5-0 in the UFC. He was 9-1 outside the UFC. He's really, really good. He was out for a while too, but you saw in his last fight, he's obviously just been getting better. It's tough. It's kind of like Arnold's technique with his outmove, like his, dancing around the cage versus Gilbert Melendez pressure. And I'm leaning towards Gilbert. I think that his wrestling and pressure will get him the decision. Like I said, this could be Gilbert's last fight. I mean, he's pretty old, and if he looks like shit in this fight, I'm thinking he's done. But I'm hoping he's still got some left in him, and I think that he's just going to edge out a decision. Next, we got Diego Sanchez versus Michael Chiesa, and this fight is so strange. Like, Michael Chiesa is just much better than Diego at this point. I feel like Diego's primarily just a wrestler. I think Michael Chiesa's striking and overall jiu-jitsu are better than Diego's at this point. I think, if Michael Chiesa's on top, he's going to have a huge advantage. Like, even on the bottom, I think it's just going to be close. On the feet, I'm leaning towards Chiesa too. I think his striking's been looking better every fight. And like I said, I just feel like Michael Chiesa's been looking better, and his ability to scramble at this point, I think, is a little bit better. He's a lot younger and closer to his prime, and I think Michael Chiesa might be the first person to submit Diego Sanchez. I think eventually he's going to outpace him on the ground and catch him in something. Like I said, like Michael Chiesa's got great conditioning too, and he's, like I said, close to his prime, so I'm leaning towards Chiesa getting a second round sub. Next is Luke Rockhold versus Jan Blachowicz, and these two guys have been compared to each other for a long time. They have very similar strikers. They're very like kickboxing and jiu-jitsu oriented fighters. I just think Luke Rockhold's more skilled in both. His chin has always been kind of suspect, but you never know. That could have been the weight cut, because he's always been big for 185. At 205, who knows what he's going to look like. But I think on the ground, especially if he's on top, I think he's just going to destroy Jan. I mean, he's got one of the best top games at middleweight. He might not be as dominant at light heavyweight because the guys are closer to his size, but I still think, even if he's on the bottom, it's just close, but if he's on top, I think he's just going to crush Jan, and that's what I see happening. I think the kickboxing will be back and forth, and eventually Luke drags it to the ground, and from there I think he's going to win either by like a rear naked choke or TKO from ground and pound. So I got Luke winning by either second or third round finish. Next we got Jorge Masvidal versus Ben Askren, and this one's tough just because Masvidal is always a hard guy to know how good he's going to look. There's some fights where he just, doesn't fight as good as he can. You know what I mean? There are fights where it's like he just kind of is doing enough. And if he shows up like that, I think Ben Askren's going to grind him out all 3 rounds. His takedown defense and ability to get back up are amazing, but Ben Askren's the type of guy where he's like Khabib, where he's just on you for the whole round once he gets a hold of you. It's tough because, like I said, I think another thing is Masvidal's striking is just significantly better. Like, that's Ben Askren's biggest weakness throughout his whole career, is that he's basically just someone that tries to grab a hold of you, and then once he grabs a hold of you, that's like the round. It's so tough because it's like, what's going to happen first? Masvidal lands that big shot, does Ben Askren just get a hold of him? I'm leaning towards Ben Askren, but it's so tough. Like I said, I think it's just whoever can get what first. But yeah, I just feel like once Ben's on you, he's on you for like the whole round, and I'm just leaning towards that to Masvidal because, like I said, Masvidal's inconsistency always worries me in his fights because, like I said, some fights he looks better than others, and then other fights he's just not that great. So I'm leaning towards Askren. I think he gets a unanimous decision. Next, we got Amanda Nunes versus Holly Holm, and to me, I think people are not giving Holly Holm enough credit. I feel like, she has, in her last few fights, she's lost more than she's won, but it's like, you look at who she lost to, it's like Valentina, the best chick in the world at fucking 125, and then Cyborg, the best at 145, and then the other one was to Germaine, which was a fight I thought she won, even if she didn't lose those points, and she did, there were points that she should have lost that she didn't. So I feel like Holly Holm has those 2 losses, and it's like, other than that, she's beaten everybody else. Like I said, I feel like she's only really had those 2 losses. I think she's still got great movement. Her overall technique is good, and her conditioning is good. My real question with Amanda is, even when she went to fight Cyborg, was how is she going to look fighting someone who can fight her for 5 rounds that isn't like Valentina, where she fights at a really slow pace sometimes, you know what I mean? I feel like Holly Holm has a higher pace, and so did Cyborg. Cyborg just was stupid and decided to swing with her in the middle of the cage, and that's why she got caught. I think if Cyborg fought her like how she fought Holly and was just kind of pushing against the fence and kind of trying to grind her out for 5 rounds, she probably could have won. I think that's what Holly's going to do, and I think this fight's going to be really close because Amanda's conditioning has definitely been getting better, but I still think Holly's got the advantage there. It's kind of like Holly's overall speed and technique versus Amanda's power and accuracy. It's really tough. Like I said, I think it's just who can kind of have the better finish. And I'm leaning slightly towards Holly. I think she has the better conditioning overall. And I think if she fights smart, she can use that to her advantage. So I'm going to say she wins a 48-47 decision. But I do think this fight's going to be close. And finally, we have Jon Jones versus Thiago Santos. And I've said this before. I don't care about Jon Jones' fights anymore. He tests positive every single time. I don't care if people agree with me or not. It's the truth. He tests positive every single fight. You can say it's only a little bit, but he's testing positive. The rules are if he tests positive, you're not allowed to fight. He's cheating every single fight. He's probably going to test positive for this fight. They're going to say it's a little, so it doesn't count, and it's like, whatever. So he's not going to lose. it's obvious he's on steroids. Look at how much bigger he is now at 33 than when he was in his 20s. And I remember in his 20s he said he's having a hard time making the weight. And now in his like early 30s, he's having an easy time making 205, and he's even more muscular. It's like that's not how shit works in real life. You know what I mean? You look at Rumble, the same thing happened, and he moved up to 205. Like he got older, more muscular, and he had to switch weight classes. Like that's what happens. Like you know what I mean? As athletes get older, it's harder to cut the weight. I remember after the Gustafsson fight the first time, he said he was probably gonna move up to heavyweight after like another fight or two. You know what I mean? To me, it's obvious he's cheating. Whatever drugs he's taking is helping him lose the weight and keep the muscle mass. And that's just what's helping him. He's going to be way bigger than Thiago. He's going to be able to take him down whenever he wants, just like he did to Smith. And I think he's going to win by either decision or submission eventually. So I got Jon Jones just because he's obviously not going to lose because of the drugs. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe.